Hello and welcome to the business of gaming, video games, and tabletop. I am your host. No, I'm kidding. My name's Noah Downs, aka my lawyer friend. I am a lawyer. I am not your lawyer. I have to do a quick disclaimer as a result. So real quick, bear with me. Everything that I say up here is for informational purposes only. It is not legal advice. It does not create an attorney-client privilege relationship or attorney-client relationship whatsoever. Anything that I say might be completely different from your own personal circumstances. What I'm trying to say is take this legal information and don't try it at home. Go to a friend's house. All right, cool. Without further ado, we are here with some wonderful, wonderful, wonderful folks who are going to talk about topics beyond me and hopefully beyond all of us, because we're going to learn today. I'm going to let them introduce themselves, starting from Bill Roper and coming back towards me. Who are you, Bill Roper?
Hey, everybody. I'm Bill. I am a tabletop and video game designer, producer, voiceover talent executive. I've been doing video games for 31 years. Started at that time little tiny company called Blizzard Entertainment in 1994. I was the 17th employee. So I was there when we created and launched Warcraft, Starcraft, Diablo. Done a bunch of other stuff over the years, and I'm super excited to be at my first MAGFest. Y'all, this is crazy cool.
Let's go. Hey, everybody, I'm Captain Robert. I spent 2 decades in the bar business before, like a lot of folks, I got an online job during lockdown and was very lucky enough to create a career getting to play tabletop on the internet.
Hey everyone, I'm Rowan Hall. I'm one of the lead game designers of Candela Obscura. I'm one of the game designers of Daggerheart. I work at Darrington Press, which is Critical Role's imprint, and I'm also one of the narrative designers for the video game Sunderfolk.
And my name's Elise Resendez. I'm the senior RPG producer at Darrington Press for Daggerheart, which is the TTRPG that Rowan and I built with the other third employee at the time, Spencer Stark. And that's us. And you are?
And I am Noah Downs, aka MyLawyerFriend. I'm a lawyer that represents game developers, publishers, tabletop publishers and developers, as well as designers and over 1,000 content creators on the internet. And I'm the least interesting person up here. So I kind of want to dive into it. I'm glad that none of you did. Well, actually, real quick disclaimer: nobody up here. Any opinions they offer today are their own opinions and do not reflect the opinions of the companies which they represent, unless you're Captain Robert, because he's self-employed.
I still don't.
So diving into it, how did each of you, and we can take it, we don't have to go in order, whatever order you want, how did you get into what you're doing? As we're talking about the business, a lot of these people are either starting off or they're on their journey, which is why they're here to learn. How did you get into what you're doing, and what was kind of your journey to your current situation like?
I can start because I feel like mine is quick and also absolutely insane, which is that I was a union tailor for film and television for 15 years in New York City. And during COVID, I started building terrain for my home game, which ended up lasting 3 of my home games that ended up lasting 5 years. And from that, I found my way into the convention circuit and met the folks who ended up offering me a job for Darrington Press and Critical Role at a convention. And now I'm a producer, because herding cats in any font is exactly the same job.
Yes. Yeah, when Spencer and I first met Elise, the moment we walked away, we were like, oh, we will be hiring her somehow, some way. And it took us a hot second, but we got there.
6 months is pretty okay.
Thank you. So I started actually in acting in film and theater. I transitioned into directing. I directed 2 shorts that went to the Cannes Film Festival, and then during lockdown, I started a mythology podcast, and then that is how I met Spencer at a tabletop convention. I was doing tabletop actual plays at the time, and we hit it off, and he hired me to work on Candela Obscura, and then I stuck around, and that's how I became a game designer.
I had no intention of ever being here.
This was a mistake.
I had a physical D&D game in the basement of my craft beer bar. We had 60 taps, 30 of them from Germany, 30 from all over the rest of the United States. My entire life, all I'm ever told is, oh, you're so lucky to be in the bar business. It's so recession-proof. Oh, Robert, oh, I wish I owned a bar. No, you don't. because it's all over in one day, completely gone. I came from a college town in between St. Louis and Memphis. 40% of our market disappeared one day and never came back for 2 years.
Yeah.
And I knew, I was like, this is not good on the first day. Shut the doors and never look back. So in my case, the boats were burned. So I looked for something that could fit for me. And I knew that I wanted to get into narrative-based storytelling. For me, that was an outlet. So I knew YouTube, Twitch. I was lucky enough to be a community member like everybody else in this room. And 10 years ago, I was in a parking lot when they'd had a meetup with a bunch of Twitch streamers around a game called Destiny. And I met some folks that were riding one of the first, second waves in Twitch. So I met tons of people that were at the beginning of this industry. So when it came time, I actually kind of had some mentors to be like, hey, what does the business side look like? What is this piece? I'm like, okay, this is another puzzle piece of putting things together. So I was just lucky and fortunate enough to know the right people to get mentored, how to get in it and entry without wasting my time. And I knew what my North Star was and where I wanted to get to. Did I get to start playing tabletop for a living day one? Absolutely not. But I got there and I knew how to get there. So that was my journey.
I had a really good friend who was an artist at Blizzard. I played games my whole life and was actually working at a Kinko's Copies, doing graveyard shift, doing desktop publishing. But I was also a musician. And he said, hey, we need somebody to do music for the PC version of a game called Blackthorn, and because our main music guy's super busy. I said, great. So I had submitted some samples of my stuff. They hired me to do that as a contractor. When I got to the end of that incredibly interesting experience, during that process, they also were showing their first self-published game called Warcraft Orcs and Humans at Summer CES, and they needed voiceover for it. And they said, yeah, we've got this idea of what it might be. I said, I think they hired me to do that because they already knew how to bill me because I was already working. So they didn't have to figure that part out. They're like, sure, bring them in for another couple hours. And I literally sat in what was a converted closet in their offices because it was the quietest place where their sound designer was, Glenn Stafford, and we sat shoulder to shoulder, and he showed me a video that now, like, Roblox looks a little better, but this is 94, but it's like coming through these trees and up to this gate that's opening. And they said, yeah, so this game's about orcs and humans and they're fighting each other. I was like, is there a script? No. So I sat, so I said, okay, give me a paper and a pencil, and I just wrote a bunch of stuff, and it was in the age of chaos, 2 factions battled for dominance. And I just started writing all this stuff, did that became the intro sequence. I got to the end of my contract, and I wrote an impassioned letter to Alan Adham, who was the president at the time, and Mike Morheim, who was the VP. And I said, I will do anything to work here. Alan, I heard you got a new car. I will wash your car once a week. Mike, I know that we both love playing Magic. I will give you my rock hydra if you hire me. I said, and this is long enough ago, I was like, I will do tech support. I will answer calls. I'll run your BBS. I don't care what it is. I will do anything to work here. I got real lucky because they appreciated the writing that I did, and they had no story or lore for the game. So they hired me, and my first real job as a full-time employee there was, they said, yep, orcs, humans, bad guys, names a black hand. Could you go write all the mission stuff and the background and the lore and everything else? So, and because you worked at Kinko's, you can set up the manual too. So, but that's how I got in. I just basically said I will do absolutely anything to get here, and I started a long journey.
And obviously, we all deal with creative projects along where we're going. And as a creative, when you're trying to turn your creative project into a business, when did you each of you find that your creative project or something that you worked on stopped being just a passion project and started turning into something that you might need to view as a business? And how did that shift kind of change the way you approached it?
I feel like I cheat when I answer that question because I work in production. So everything I do ever always has logistics and process and procedure
Business.
first. We do the business, right? So when you pay attention to the things that you need to run lean, to run clean, if you are building things and you know that you want this to be a part of some monetary buy-in to the capitalistic world within which we live in, there are a lot of things that you can do at the outset. So every time I look at a project, I'm always looking at the fail points for that.
Right.
But that's also what makes me a producer.
Yeah.
So I think that the problem for me is that I don't ever see something as not business-minded in some way.
I give this advice to game designers and writers and artists that we hire or that we talk to on panels like this that are eventually hoping to be hired by our team, for example, to freelance for us. And that is that for a period of time, you will have to do the work for free. And I am not saying that you have to work with companies that are like, you're doing it for exposure. That is ultimately only something that you can decide aligns with the like trifecta of your needs and your ability to survive and your desire. But there is a world where you may have to do it for yourself over and over and over again until you know that you have the skills that you can rely on. Because by the time you're coming to us working on projects that you're paid for, we are paying for those reps that you've put in. So when I started my podcast over the pandemic, I specifically was not aiming to monetize it from the onset. I was like, I don't care. I was not aiming specifically for a certain number of listeners. While it was lovely to have a lot of listeners, that was not the goal. It was specifically to get the reps in, to collaborate, to practice, to synthesize research into story. And doing that over 100 times is what set me up for success when the opportunity came knocking.
Yeah.
Anybody remember a website called Mixer?
Good answer.
Yeah. Some folks have been on the other panels have got to hear it. I got to start on Mixer when entering the live streaming space. It continues to be a very, very crowded market. But at that time, I got to be one of the first tabletop creators on that platform. And it gave me a massive advantage when I first started. I did not get to play tabletop 3 to 4 or 5 times a week. I got to play a little game called Sea of Thieves because it was a collaborative game, and if nobody has an audience, maybe 4 of you has a small audience. And all those best streaming practices, if for someone who was going in live play first, which is a crazy thing to do. I was lucky enough to build my core community from that point and then work in that first tabletop game and then add in the second, add in the third, go through that course. And then eventually, for me, since this was something I was doing anyway inside the pandemic, you didn't have that business feel quite yet because you're like, or it's Twilight Zone. Eventually, I'm going to have some data here and I'm going to look at it, and then you have to start making smart decisions like, should I play 90 episodes in a long form campaign? Probably not, says the YouTube data, but the fun factor, is this still fun for me? You will get to see your matrix and all the lovely bits of details that will guide you in your decision making then. But at first, things are very granular.
Yeah, so for me, I mean, we talked about my video games. I also do music and podcasting. And those were two very much what you're talking about, put in the reps.
Yeah.
Back in '94 with my college roommate, we started a band to do the Southern California Renaissance Fair. Our big thing was like we wanted to start a band to meet women and get beer, and we still get beer. But we started by doing music that was period music of the time, put a group together, performed literally standing on a table where another group that was out there would let us perform. Nobody paid us, and it was to get the reps in. It was to get our sound together, to get what we wanted to become. They eventually put us on stages. And we thought we were doing really good, and I think this is really important. And then one year they didn't hire us back. Because they're like, you're not putting enough butts on hay bales. That's plain and simple. And as a group, we had to say, like, okay, well, what do we need to do? We need to retool. And we identified a gap at the fair. We already had identified a gap, which was an all-men's singing group, because they were all mixed voice groups. Then we said, well, what else should we do? And we said, well, no one out here is doing doing body drinking songs of the time, right? And so we switched over to being kind of a blue group out there and doing more, we could still do all the sweet, really beautiful stuff, but we started doing, we were on the NC-17 stage, naughty content, 17 times an hour. And that blew the band up, and it got us crazy opportunities. We were on Hell's Kitchen one time eventually, singing for Gordon on a pirate ship, totally weird, and other stuff. But that was it would have been very easy for us to go, oh, I guess people don't want to hear us. Like what we're doing isn't good.
What I love about that, and this is one of the interesting things about the journey that I've been on, I quit my last union profession because the thing that I loved, I started falling out of love with. I loved building things with my hand, terrain, minis, costumes, props, and I was sewing. The last show that I worked on was Marvelous Mrs. Maisel on the 3rd season, doing historical tailoring. And there was a moment I was getting screamed at because I hemmed a pair of pants a 1/4 inch too short, and I said, oh my God, today I want to never touch another sewing machine. And I love sewing, I have to go. Right. So the other thing when talking about passions in business and opportunities where your passion becomes something that become your business. Yeah. One of the things that I always love to let people know is that it is okay that the thing that you love is not the thing that makes you money. Yeah. And I actually think that is in times like these, piece that you should protect, because there are a lot of ways in which you can make money if you can survive the love in the thing that we're very lucky to be able to do things that we're very passionate about. I am not in love with being a producer. I am very good at being a producer, and I get to work on games and with people that I love. The thing that I love is being a crafter, and I'm not doing that anymore for money because it stopped being lovely.
I think it's also a different kind of love when it's something that you can show up for and ultimately love it even when you hate it that day or that week or that month. And you can love it through the also totally ungratifying, hateful tasks. Running a business is hard. Yeah. And there have been times that Spencer and I made games where we didn't have an Elise. There have been projects that I freelance for to this day where I don't have an Elise, and I am not particularly inclined toward the production side, but I've done it a lot, and I will probably continue to do it a lot, and I will still love the other work that I get to do even when I'm doing those bits that I don't enjoy. So I think that's it's also a different kind of just way to show up for something. Yeah.
It's one of those things where if you're passionate about it and you feel like there's a business opportunity there, then as Elise said earlier, as Rowan said earlier, it's something you're going to put the time in and you're going to do it. The question is whether or not you turn it into a business. And once you turn it into a business, then you can go back, but there's a certain level of burnout you can get to eventually that'll ruin it for you. And that is absolutely brutal to get to. I love being a lawyer. And unfortunately, for the longest time, that was my only personality, was I am lawyer, and that is it. And what I really found was that, even though my handle has been MyLawyerFriend, all of my friendships were being viewed through the lens of being a lawyer, and that sucked. That sucked. So now I'm a creative. I do certain things for business as well, but I'm a lawyer, and I do have that separation. And when you get to the point where you are starting to turn your passion as more than a hobby into a part-time side gig, that's when you really got to kind of change how you frame things. And if you're coding a game, if you're coming up with a game with your friend in a basement, one, get a contract. Contracts save friendships. If you're designing a tabletop game and you say, hey, I want all my friends to play this, have an NDA with them or something like that. Otherwise, they could run with it. Now, that said, that's not to say monetize your friendships, because that's not the point. But if you are going to head down a business route, make sure that before you get too far along it, you are starting to think from a business-minded perspective.
We had somebody's husband sign an NDA walking into my house delivering Daggerheart for the first time because we were delivering it. Our office had been flooded, and they were like coming to pick them up. And I was like, hey, we have computers and papers everywhere. I'm going to meet you outside. You're just going to sign an NDA. It has nothing else to do except for the things that you see in this house. You can't talk about them. And he read it through, and he was like, okay, really, just to walk in and get my wife? And I was like, really? Just to walk in and get your wife?
The weirdest thing, my God, that brought back a memory.
Hell yeah.
When I was at Blizzard and dating someone, and I was like, this may sound a little weird, but I need you to sign an NDA. Because we've gotten serious enough in our relationship,
Yeah.
you're going to come by the office and stuff. And it kind of was a deal breaker.
For
right?
real?
She was like, oh, I'm not really interested in that. I'm like going, I'm super sorry, but I mean, I was unfortunately spending way more hours in the office than anyone should be spending. But it was like, I'd love to have you come by and see what I do, but you need to I need to know legally you can't talk about it. Mm-hmm. And it is kind of a strange thing, but to the point of like, you have to find those ways that you protect what it is you're doing, especially when it's your business. Right, even more so. But then figure out, how do I maintain my social life?
For real. I think there's also an interesting step in asking yourself if you want something that you love or are interested in to become a job, which is, are you prepared to be reliable? Because, for example, if you're writing a novel on your own time, it doesn't matter if you do a certain number of words each week. But if you are a freelancer who is working for our team, you have to turn things in when you say you will.
Yep.
The first requirement is that you're nice to be around. And the second requirement is that you turn things in when you say you will. And the third requirement is that you can take a note. And if you aren't interested in being nice, that's one thing. If you aren't prepared to be reliable and turn things in when you're contractually obligated to, that's another thing. That might not be fun or desirable for you. And if you're not interested in taking notes about your art, you probably shouldn't work for other companies, because when I give notes, I'm beholden to my bosses and their bosses and lawyers and marketing and other companies that we have deals with. And so by the time they get to me, the notes are not optional.
Yeah.
And if one of our writers or game designers or artist doesn't implement them, we will find someone else to do it, which means it very often is me. And that means you don't get a vote on how the note goes. So I think that's a really important question to take stock of before you get involved with things.
And put it another way, you have to be prepared once you go from the hobby to the business side. You have to be prepared to take constructive feedback on your hobby. You're no longer just doing it for yourself. And that leads perfectly into my next question.
For you, anything.
That was amazing. You put it on a tee. Across both video games, tabletop, and content creation, there's always like a tension between creative freedom and sustainability. And so what's a compromise that each of you has made that ultimately made the project better in that idea, but not necessarily something that you wanted to do at the time?
Ooh, that's a great question.
Oh, thanks.
I knew you'd have something
I'll pick
really
one.
good.
Bill is a font of wisdom, by the way.
I
I've had
felt
to
the
make
legacy from this side of the table.
So many
way.
terrible decisions like this over the years. So a lot of times you have to make choices, and this is very, I think, particular almost to like video games that have like live content, right? We are constantly balancing, right? And it's we used to have the luxury of like, we'd make a game and throw it over the wall and like, hey, it got published. Maybe we'll see on a patch, right? And then you get to the point where it's like, we're running an MMO, and every day we're looking at like thousands of inputs, right? And then you get to mobile gaming, and it was like every second you're like tweaking things. And you have to make decisions sometimes that you know are going to be correct for the business,
Right.
but may not be what the players say they want,
Right.
or at least, very importantly, the very vocal players, which tend to be a minority of the people, but they are the ones that will get on your forums and scream at you. I recall, give one particular instance, we were launching Champions Online when I was at Cryptic Studios. I was the EP on the project. I had final go, no-go call on it. We had been in open beta for several weeks. People were playing it. We knocked out all the different stuff. We're like, okay, we're going to go live. Like, here's our final push. We submit all the final stuff. It goes through all the bug testing. Everything's great. Ship the game. There it goes. One of the designers accidentally moved a decimal point. So it went. Now people were leveling 10x faster than anticipated in the game.
That sent a shiver down my spine.
Yeah. So we release it, and now we're in this 1 week window where people that paid ahead of time get to play, and they're just getting to level 50 like that. Boom! And we're like, holy crap! We don't have end-game content ready yet for that. Like, we knew how long it would take them to get to level cap. By watching it, and had planned everything for that. And now people are just shoot, rocketing up, and making different characters and the whole thing. And they're loving it because they're blowing through everything. Right?
Instant gratification,
Yeah,
you know what I
instant
mean?
gratification. And so I have to make the call to go, we need to roll back that change and slow it back down. Otherwise, we are screwed from a content creation standpoint of what we need to make to support the game when it comes out. So before it went live broad, we took that change out.
Brutal.
Flamed. Everybody was like, oh, you just killed the game, you ruined it, now it's terrible, because they had that instant gratification taste. Interestingly, in retrospect, the thing that we found out is and if we would have known this with perfect hindsight, we would have planned the whole game differently, because what we found is that people actually ended up being more interested in creating a vast array of superheroes to choose from rather than focus on the journey of a single hero. We had nothing had shown us that beforehand, except we made the final mistake, and people were like, but I love the fact that I had this character and this character and this character and this character, and we got together to play. We kind of chose our team that night, and we're like, yeah, if we do that though, like, our business completely disappears.
Yeah.
So, like, that was changing the entire product at the very end, like the pacing of it. But it's very odd, right? Like, looking back, would it have done any better? I don't know, right? Players might have been happier because they got to make all those different characters, but at the same time, our entire business model we'd spent years putting together would have been in the tank.
I love hearing the different constraints that different modes of games have in terms of like digital and physical, because I'm over here thinking about the one where, like, okay, know your parameters. If you have decisions to make, know the parameters within which you can make those decisions. We had the problem on Daggerheart, which is that can we swear?
Yeah, we get 4 fucks, 1 per each person.
Only one?
One
No,
per person.
I get 4.
Okay, Rolling gets 4.
Our fucking book was too heavy.
All right, there goes 1.
And it was too heavy by a lot. And when you're measuring, we got to the point where I was calculating ink weight on the page. Because a piece of paper printed on double side has a measurable weight times 400, 500 pages that makes a difference. We were going to be too heavy. We were going to be cut off from qualifying to ship internationally. And I looked at Rowan and Spencer and I said, okay, I'm going to ask you the worst question I've ever asked you, and I need you not to hate me. What can we cut?
It made it for a really good game in the end, though, actually. The audience was kind of upset that we had to cut things at the beginning because the less feels like less. But ultimately, it's no book or some things get cut. And the book was a lot better for it.
But then we got to the point where you and Spencer said, nothing else, I got a manuscript and they said, nothing else from here can change, or it's not a core game. And I go, cool. We're still 10 ounces over. And that's where you go, and with a book, 10 ounces of paper, like, that's 100 pages, right? So go back to what are your parameters. And my husband is a stuntman in film and television, and I went down to the garage and I got his micrometer, which is a little, very precise measuring tool that you scroll a little wheel up and down, and it can measure millimeters or decameters, and there are a couple of cute names after that.
Nanometers.
So I started thinking about what are the parameters with which I can change how heavy this book is. And I thought, well, what paperweight have we spec'd? And we were at 350, and I went, baby, I can go down to 210. I can go down to 208. Yeah. I shaved 11.5 ounces off of the book just in case the cardboard bumper was going to add too much weight. I didn't know if that qualified or not. So, like, when you are sacrificing things, pay attention within which the parameters. It's a game. It's a game to get it done.
Yeah.
Find the rules of your world and figure out in which way you can manipulate them so that you get what you want. And some of it is going to be, unfortunately, some things aren't going to make it. And then others are going to be, you cannot change. It is an immutable fact that these things have to be in this game. How do you do it?
You fucking did
For
that.
7 hours, it was going to be a soft cover book. Like there's so many ways in which you can change things. And I'm sure in the digital world, like those are things you never have to necessarily worry about. But I bet they're wildly different.
You 100% do. In two different factors. One is just digital content.
Yeah.
Right? Because you're like, oh, we're going to have
Always.
this in the game. And then you're like, we can't make all that in time to meet our deadline.
Of course.
Like, and so you start going, what are we cutting? And sometimes it's like, not just we can't make that much art. It's like engineering point. What systems are we cutting?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So it's like, so now players can't do this anymore in the game. The physical part, though, brought a horrible PTSD memory back because my first thing I ever did was doing the manuals for packaging, way back in the video game, and I had come from like, I want to do the whole artsy thing, right? And I said, so here's what I want to do for our manual. I want the cardstock cover to be that leather textured cardstock, and then the pages inside are going to be like parchment-esque paper. Because I worked at the Kinko's, so I'm even telling them like what I want, right? So it's going to be this paper, and of course I get the big pushback, right? And they're like, we can't do that because that's going to add this much cost per unit. Right?
Yeah.
That's where I learned what COGS meant, by the way. If you ever live in the physical world, cost of goods, right? But I pushed and pushed and pushed for like quality, and I was about to get basically like, no, you have to go like lightest cover possible, cheapest paper possible. But then Alan, our president, said, oh, and I want to put a notepad in the box. And it was literally like a half 8 and half 11 in half, like notepad that had the Blizzard logo on it and everything. And of course, the people that had purchased Blizzard at that time, Davidson Associates, were like, "You're insane. That's going to add another like 11 cents to COGS or something." It was like a huge cost, right? And he said, "Here's why we're going to do it," which I loved because he wasn't like, "Here's what I'm asking." He's like, "Here's what we're going to do it." He's like, "It's our first game we're shipping. Someone's going to go in and pick up our game and another video game in the store, and they're going to go, wow, this one's heavier. This must be a better product."
Yeah.
It's a digital product.
Yeah.
How heavy the box is wholly irrelevant to the game, but he knew player and people's psychology. He's like, they're going to go, there's more value in this box, right? The crazy other 15-second side story is at one point we got a letter that that had it was like, hey, I just want to let you know, we kind of sketched out the design for our game on one of your notepads, and we thought it'd be really cool if you had that.
Aw.
And it was the game sketch design for Team Fortress. So they like did their first notes on building Team Fortress on a Blizzard notepad, and we're like, all right, coolest thing ever, best idea we ever had, because we were all playing the hell out of Team Fortress that time.
Wow.
So sometimes you just make a call because it's the right thing to do, but the parameters were a big deal. We were able to force making it happen, but justified why. We've also cut tons of stuff from games over the years because you just can't make it happen.
Becomes
Content has to be
DLC.
the same way. Like, what do you do? How long is your show? When does it come up?
Yeah.
I think it's also important to know what hills you're willing to die on.
And then you have to be willing to die on them.
Yeah.
But one of the things that I am always figuring out on any given project is who gets final call. I want to know if I have final call, because at the end of the day, if people are coming to me and giving me notes, they're very often giving me really wonderful notes. But if I have final call and I don't align with the note, we get to the point where I say, thank you so much for your input. I really appreciate it. We're going to go this way. And I want to know when I don't have final call, because if I don't have final call, very often I'll go, oh, I'd like this note to be implemented, but I'm not willing to die on this hill. Or if it's really important to me and I really think that they should consider it, I go, hey, this is really important to me and I think you should hear me out. And then I can push as much as I think is reasonable and then ultimately say, but you get final call. And when I'm freelancing on projects, I find it very easy to be like, I'm collecting the check, I'm giving you my absolute best, and I'm pushing as far as I know that I can, but it is your final call, and I walk away because I am not in charge of the vision. And then there are other projects where I am the person who is keeping the creative ship going in a certain direction. And that's when Elise and I are moving titles down to the nanometer.
3-click Rowan literally means pixels on a page.
Oh.
And those are things that I don't have to die on a hill, but those are the things that I think takes a product from being good to being great.
That's cool.
There's no avoiding good communication at any level, whether it is just your home game or whether it is your small team that you're working with. Identifying the boundaries that are there and the decision makers and the process is what saves you on a lot of heartbreak. You can imagine most of you here have been at a game or a table where things are not working out. When that happens professionally, when you're managing expectations of a community and a show, while we don't have a physical presence in the actual play world, you're basically managing an online indie theater with a lot of personalities and things are going all over the place, and there's a constant hot mic, and that can change relationships in an instant. And you need to have a process of which you address those things and make that very clear, so that in my case, it is the Philosopher King system. It is my final call. I create the groups. I will make the calls when we stop and when we start. And the players need to trust me on that. There are other groups like Legends of Evantris or Critical Role where it is a troop, where it is all in, and they have their own dynamics that are set with inside that group. These are things you're going to have to contemplate if you're getting into the performance side. There is no way of getting around being able to work well as a small group. That is what you are entering in.
And on that note, I've said this. I'm 4 for 4 on panels saying this at this point. No, God, fucking hell.
There it is, a giraffe.
Hey, but here's the thing: when you're working within a group, whether you're creating a game in the basement with a couple of friends, or you've been working on a team for a while, or you're being hired by a company to work, contracts save friendships. Repeat after me.
We want prenup.
Repeat after me. Contracts save friendships. Thank you. If you take nothing else away from this, follow all these people on social media, buy Dagger Heart, but also contracts save friendships. And that's incredibly important because at the end of the day, you know who has that decision-making authority. You know, like, who is the boss in charge. You know where the buck is going to stop. And at that point, if you want it to be blue and they want it to be red, the contract will tell you who gets to decide. And then you can say, listen, I understand your perspective. That doesn't mean don't be empathetic. Always validate the people that you work with. Otherwise, it's just a shady relationship. But be empathetic, but say, I understand where you're coming from. I've listened to your perspective. I understand it. This is where we're going to go because at the end of the day, my perspective is also valid, and the contract says that I get to make the final call. And at that point, you can point to that neutral arbiter of the contract, that piece of paper, so the hard feelings between you and your friend or you and your coworker, et cetera, the person you have to have that relationship with, are maintained.
I think it's important to factor into whether you're working in video games or tabletop or content creation, anything in this kind of nerd sphere. When you are getting input from the audience, of course, the loud contingency on the internet that is the small group but the very audacious group, people are giving you feedback as hobbyists and as consumers because they are engaging with tabletop or video games or what have you as something that they do in their own home, in their own pastime, and it's something that they don't have life-altering stakes in. And in these, what I'll call nerd industries, there's a very, very small contingent of people who make money, and an even smaller contingency of people who make enough money to pay their bills with only that source of income. And the kind of decisions that you need to make when you make any money at all, much less life-changing money, are very different than the kind of decisions your audience might push for when they're sitting at home with their friends eating pizza and then going to their day jobs that are in totally different industries. And they are not factoring in the arrangements that you have with other companies, the NDAs that you've signed, the lawyers, the marketing, the fact that your decisions ultimately result in other people's employment and whether they get to eat. And so I think that's an important aspect to factor in when you're examining your decisions as a business person and hearing feedback from people who are enjoying things and excited as consumers.
And that said, though, don't take feedback, don't disregard feedback just because they're not right there. I will say that, I'm friends with all these people on this panel, have been outside of this everything. Each and every one of them has both given me both personal and professional feedback that if I hadn't listened to, I wouldn't be up here right now in various ways. And I'm grateful to each of you for feeling comfortable for doing that. And you need to find your group of people who are willing to give you feedback and tell you things that you might not want to hear, but you need to hear, even if it's tough to hear sometimes, even if it's personal and not necessarily professional. You need to be able to hear that, because at the end of the day, those are your friends, and also the people that are going to make sure that you advance in your career. So
I think there's two really important things with that with feedback, because feedback's super important, and your community is super important, right? No matter if you're streaming, if you're doing tabletop, video games, whatever it is like that, that's your lifeblood. Ultimately, those are the people that also then buy your product, right? And there's two things that I think are really important with that. One, first and foremost, they just want to know they're being heard. Even if I don't implement anything you've ever told me, right? You want to know, go, hey, we hear what you're saying, right? We appreciate that. We appreciate you. Like, there may be a reason we do or don't do what it is you want us to do or don't do, but you're being heard, right? It is a community. I think that's why you see some of the best companies like have very strong community outreach. For us at my new studio at Lunacy, like having a community person is very, very early in our hiring process, because that's how you, in anything where I think especially is in the nerd sphere, is super important, right? People want to know that you're engaged with them. The second is, a lot of times when you see, even that vocal minority complaining about stuff, they like to give you answers, like, you should go do this. That will fix it. Go do this thing. What you have to draw from that is there an underlying problem?
Yes.
We probably need to address that problem, not in the way you're telling me to, because you don't, again, understand all the intricacies of everything. But obviously this is enough of a challenge where people are being vocal about it. What's the problem we can address? Right? Maybe we didn't do it in the way that they thought we were going to, but when you fix it, then that's the reinforcement, and you give them credit for it. Hey, oh my God, thank you guys so much. You pointed this thing out, came at it from a lot of directions. Here's how we're addressing that. Because then what you're hoping to get out of that is not more people going like, great, if we just are being like, online jerks, they're going to fix our stuff. It's the, oh, you heard us when there was a big enough problem, and then you did something about it.
The worst is when the information and the feedback is hidden and you don't have access to it because you aren't the channel for that information. Things that happen in my space all the time is trying to protect my players at all cost. And sometimes we will not know those channels are being activated until it's too late. So you have to have a lot of things in place to receive the information that you need to. One classic example when you get into the live actual play business is protecting FIM, presenting, or any of your minority players. They are going to receive a different experience on the internet from anyone else, and you need to be very careful of making sure that they are not assaulted in ways that you don't even see. Could be Discord messages, could be people then going to their social media, different ways of setting boundaries up and trying to protect anyone's mental space within it, because we're delivering something that can sometimes be incredibly vulnerable. And managing those emotions and protecting your people is the first. You have to circle the wagons. And if you don't have your support structure set up right to catch these things that you don't see, you can end up in a lot of trouble.
I'm sorry, just to jump. One thing with that too is when you and I hope everyone who's here, like, I want to turn this into a business, I'm doing that, has a level of success where then at some point you get to do a thing like we're getting to do, right? You become well enough known in your space where people are like, hey, I'd like to hear some more from you. Part of that journey is exactly what Robert has talked about, is you will become subject to that as well. When someone knows who you are and knows what you do and maybe doesn't, for whatever reason, like all the stuff you've done, they have there's a high probability they'll be very vocal about it, right? You have to figure out what it is for you is your armor in that way, and who is your support system, right? When I was, okay, I'll talk about this. When I had Flagship Studios, we did Hellgate London, and the game came out, and we had reviews everywhere from 65 to 98.
Yeah.
It was very broad in what people loved the game or didn't love the game, and we ran our own. Not a bulletin board system, but our own channels. Right, there wasn't Discord, there wasn't anything. We hosted our own website where people came on and people and the way I thought of it at the time was like, this is a thing we pay for and we host, and these are like, we let our people come and talk. We're on there, and we had to make cuts. There was things we didn't ship in the game that we had talked about hoping to be able to do, and we felt we were very upfront about, we don't know if this is going to get in, but we'd love to do this. Some of those things didn't make it in. It became somehow in early doxing, someone found out I was going through a divorce, and on our own forums, someone said, well, I'm not surprised that this thing didn't get in. I'm sure Bill lied to us about what was going to be in the game, just like he lied to his wife about his dick size, which is why he's probably getting a divorce.
Yikes!
And at the same time, I'm trying to keep my company going, right? Because I'm a CEO. And I was like, I need to take a step back. Don't read the comments, right, Choice here? Yeah, I'm going to take a step back. And then I just realized this is someone who's really was counting on something in the game. It didn't happen. They don't know how to process that. So they're just going to lash out at the public figure that's there. Yeah. Right? The internet is an anonymous place.
On the internet, no one knows you're a dog.
That's right. Exactly. So, I love that you talk about how do we protect the people that are there, right? A huge part of this is you're going into this is like recognize that not everyone loves what you do. People may not always have the kindest things to say. It's amazing when they do, right? Those are the life-changing stories I'm sure we could all also be sharing, is like, I talked to this person, they said how the game changed their life, or what they did was so fantastic and such an important part for them. But there's the other side there. So just like know it's going to be there, right? And figure out how you're going to deal with it, right? And support systems are really huge. So just like if you're building a team and who's going to be your writers and your production people and your artists, and like you build that structure, like as someone who wants to be leading the charge and having a leadership position, like building your business, like have that professionally and personally, people you can talk to as well is really important.
Yeah. I'm going to ask one quick question, then we're going to do questions from the audience very quickly. But this last one I'm very eager to ask. Bill, obviously you have a studio that is creating something, and obviously Daggerheart is launching in. I wrote this one down because I'm so happy with it. And Daggerheart is launching into a space that is kind of dominated by legacy systems as well. So from each of your perspectives, what is it going to take today for a new game or a new studio to meaningfully stand out without burning out your team?
Whoa. Process and procedure. The things that protect us are the systems that put up those walls, those baffles, or protect time or protect peace. The ways in which that you can build schedules or continue to show up for the reps. The things that you can do that keep you accountable. There's a lot of psychology and a lot of folks that study the brain that say it takes about 30 days to build a habit. And I was like, oh, abstractly, cool, that's some information. What that actually means is the physical neurons aligning and the electricity that flows from one to the other becomes so conductive within the course of 30 days of practicing something that electricity can flow more streamlined. So there's a physical thing that happens in your brain that keeps you coming back. You set up those things that allow you to show up for the work. So finding your process and procedure for things that are digital, for things that are in physical media, for things that are for performance, set up the systems that help you continue to show up in ways that allow you to have meaningful contributions, because that will make you do those reps longer. It'll make you learn in ways that I think will have an impact on whatever you're building.
Figure out your North Star. Your North Star creatively is how do you imagine this project? What are the important pillars of this project for you? And then filter every piece of feedback you receive through that North Star and those pillars, because some feedback is really good, but it might be for a different game or a different show. And like Bill said, there's usually a note within a note. So sometimes the feedback is really good in that the emotional experience is true, but their solution is not. And when you are filtering things through your North Star, you're able to keep on track. Also set up a North Star for how your team operates. Process and procedure is really important, but I also mean, like, our team, we have 3 pillars: the art, the artists, and the audience. And we have certain things that we do to maintain all of those things. So we have a North Star for the art. We do not allow notes in that do not align with the North Star of the art. In order to protect the artist, we do not accept feedback from the audience that is nasty or abusive, because it goes to one person on our team and we care about her more than we care about the feedback. So that's one of the pillars that we have. We also try to preserve each other's well-being. We are, in fact, as we speak, working on new ways to support the artists not burning out and having time to themselves. And then the audience, the people who consume our project, are people that we care about very much, and we think that their excitement and their enthusiasm and any time that they give to us is such a gift, and we do certain things in order to support the people who consume our game. So I would just figure out what your North Stars are in each of those areas, and then what it takes to align with that.
Yeah, and your pillars might be different, but anything that holds up what you're doing, find what those are for you.
In content creation, it is still the golden age. You've never had more opportunity. You've never had more competition. Likewise, at the same time, you need to be brutally self-aware at what you're good at, and more importantly, what you are not good at. You are starting as a team of one, and you need to figure out, how do I build out and I support myself at not doing the work that I am not competent at, and build that structure out from there. It's sometimes a bit of a heartbreak process and realizing what you can and can't do, but you need to find that out inside of the process, because you are going to be studying the art of the creation itself for the rest of your career, and that is going to do nothing but change the entire time that you're in it. So you must become a student and a learner yourself of the constant evolving environment in which you are participating in.
I always believe that you have to, like, all preparation, everything is there to then be able to immediately take an opportunity when that opportunity arises, right? All of our spaces, though there is a lot of opportunity there, are also immensely crowded, right? Knowing who you are, what your product is, are all incredibly important, and I believe it because it supports when an opportunity arises, knowing if that's the right opportunity for you to jump at, right? You don't know if it is if you don't know what you are, what your product is, right? And who your team is and what you can accomplish. But when they come up, then knowing, like, here's how I take that, right? And it goes back to something we all have with our experiences, is the concept of yes and, right? It's when you're role playing, it's yes and. When you're building stuff, it's yes and. And if someone's like, oh, hey, here's this opportunity, do you think you can do that? First filter is, does that meet our North Star? Does that meet what our product is, who our people are, what our company's about, what our product is? If it is, then it's like, yes. And because I know what all of those elements are, here's how we're going to tackle it, right? Here's the thing that we can become. I think that when I look back at different studios I've been at and companies, when we did that well, we had a lot of success. And at times, even within the same project or company, we did it really well and did it really terribly, right? Hellgate is always the big one for me. Like, we were so focused on trying to get that game done on a really big budget, as big as we could put together. At one point, like, if you look at the back of that box, it looks like a NASCAR. There's so many logos of stuff we just said yes to. Oh my God! Like, and it was like we were one of the first games for Windows. We supported a voice over IP company. We just anything that got a few more dollars in the door, because at one point that very badly became our North Star. We've got to keep the company going. Got to keep building the game. Can we go find another $100,000? Okay, yes, we'll do that thing. We'll take one of our characters and put it in a video game Girls in Playboy. Because it was like, it's press, it's great.
It's money.
Did it make any sense? Hell no. But when we did really smart stuff, like we want to have collector's figures, that made a lot of sense for IP. We got to work with Weta to do that. That was amazing, right? Those are incredible pieces. That brought, and I think this is a big thing, whether it's your channel and who you are, whether it's Daggerheart associated with Critical Role and whether it's a game so you like, it's all your brand.
Yeah.
Right? And are the things that you're doing and the opportunities you're taking building that brand? Because ultimately when someone goes and buys your game, engages with your channel, gets whatever it is that you're making, that you want to take your passion and your hobbies and become businesses, it needs to be representative of that. The single biggest thing I took away very early on from my time at Blizzard is I was having and get a mentor. Oh my God. I was very, very lucky to have Alan and Mike as my mentors when I first started. And the big takeaway I got from Alan at one point, he said, Bill, he said, I want us to be quality was our North Star, like just quality of product, quality of experience, quality of everything. And he said, I want it to be where if you didn't know what the game was, had never heard about it, but you saw that Blizzard was on the box, you would buy it because you knew it was going to be good. Like, that was his focus.
It's a good one.
Blizzard was the brand, right? And it's like, and when we followed that, that's when, that drove everything. So, know what it is, know what you're doing, and set whatever it is for you, those goals.
Yeah.
And then stay true to them.
Phenomenal. I did not leave a ton of time for questions. I am so sorry. But we do have a little bit of time for questions. So if you got a question, just come on up here, and I'll hand you this microphone. You get my microphone. And I'm a lawyer. Also, by the way, we don't need context for your questions. We just need the questions. Rapid fire. Let's go. Hey, Will.
So you mentioned some of you already that you keeping the hobby and the business separate. But was there a time when you transformed from it being a hobby to a business, and was there particular problems that occurred because of it?
Investing in the infrastructure. So, and when investing in the infrastructure. So when I started doing, when I stopped tailoring and I started moving more into production, I needed a whole different set of tools. And I didn't necessarily know what those were. So I had to do a lot of research about what I needed to be able to invest in this new direction. And that was solvable, but it took a lot of time to sort of catch up where I saw a lot of other folks had that, right? New investment.
Yes.
Do I need to learn InDesign? Oh, yes.
I will also say, just from the lawyer perspective, when you're at the point where you're talking about, do I need to have an LLC or a bank account for this? Or when you're at the point you're like, man, can I do this as a tax write-off? Because it's getting super expensive. That's a good time to really kind of make that step. So, yeah, good job. Thanks. There you go.
Thank you so much for the panel. I have a quick question. In my limited experience working as a game designer in the industry, and to a lesser degree previously working as an actor in film industry, I keep seeing this trend where someone with money will be like, if you invest in this one big thing that's really big, we'll give you money. If you don't, we'll not give you money. And for example, NFT or metaverse or generative AI, or there's a lot of going on, but when a lot of time it's especially a video game, it takes so long to make, and you never finish it on time to cash in the trend, and it leads to layoff, and I think that also leads to a lot of burnout. So my question is, how do you survive in this industry that just keep trying to pushing you down a cliff for the next big trend?
My experience with that is I hate trends. If I look at it, it's like, oh, this is only going to be good or valuable if I jump on this hot thing, which very commonly is a brand new cool idea that has a bunch of backing from VCs, right? Like NFTs or crypto or like Gen AI, any of that. It's like, does that actually make a good thing?
Yeah.
Right. If the answer is no, I'm wholly uninterested. Right. Like I especially in the gaming space. I'll use one quick one. When I looked at like crypto, and that kind of whole crazy, like, oh, that doesn't make gaming any better. Yeah. There's nothing about that makes a better game. Why would I do that? And you see it then fundamentally rejected by gamers. They're like, we don't like this stuff. Mm-hmm. And the only people that are pushing it are people that are, trying to crank up a bunch of money and then rug pull you. So, like, first and foremost, whatever it is that you're trying to do in your business, like gaming, like, does it make it better? If the answer is no, I just ignore it.
Mm-hmm. Hey, bud. I've seen you before.
So quick question. How do you carve out time for creating processes if you're in constant survival mode, like you have deadlines and everything? You're
like you're building the track while the train is on top of it.
I think it's different though.
It
because
is.
the work that we do is we clock in and out every day at a certain time. But if you're not willing to carve out the time to do it, I think the conversation's over, unfortunately. Like if you're in a space where it's just for you or you're freelancing, like, boy, howdy, have I had some survival jobs. And I did hit the point where it's like, do I want sleep or do I want to do the creative? Do I want to hang out with my friends or do I want to do the creative? And it's in that scenario, it's constantly like, what do I want more? What am I willing to sacrifice? What hills am I willing to die on? And if the answer continues over and over and over again to not be the creative, then the universe is giving you your answer. And you are, I guess. And I don't mean those like times where it's like, do I miss my mom's birthday party? Or do I, like, obviously we all have moments where we're like, today is not the day to get my words in or whatever. But it is ultimately, unfortunately, when you are not paid to do this for 8 hours a day, for 12 hours a day, for 16 hours a day, then you have to set aside the time whether you like it or not.
Discipline outlasts motivation.
Yes.
Yep.
Well, and that's that 30-day thing, right? Like, again, it might be hard if you can hit goals or if you can set yourself metrics. A choice is a series of choosings. It does not become a choice until you have reached the last opportunity in that set of time, 30 days, 10 days, 3 days in a row. A choice becomes a choice the second that you have set your beginning, your middle, and your end parameter. And you can do that lean. Like, you can start small. So set yourself goals that are achievable, but then that choice is a measure of your dedication and your discipline, right?
Yeah. And failure to put in the processes that are going to help you continue your business are going to lead to burnout. I've been a lawyer for 11 years, but for 8 of those years, I didn't have a producer. And once I got a producer, I was responding to things on time. I was getting work out the door. It made a measurable difference. My friends and clients are happier with me, and I'm able to continue doing this purely because I made the choice to say either I need to figure this out or I need to hire somebody to do it with me, and I made the right decision.
Especially in creative work, find out what your muse is and protect your muse. Don't beat yourself up over the deadlines that you have made if that doesn't fit how you create. You need to know what that process is for you and then integrate it with the discipline.
I think ask yourself, are you only interested in showing up when you're inspired, or can you and do you want to show up when you're not inspired? Because I have to I'll only speak for myself here. I have to get words on a page whether I'm inspired or not. Mm-hmm. And some days the words on the page are dog shit. But if I don't get them out, then I can't come back the next way and edit them into something good. And very often I'm not inspired. And when I am inspired, that's great for me. But I still want to be an artist even when I'm not. And so if for you it is an inspiration-based practice, I would say hobby. And if you are motivated or thrilled or just like have the wherewithal to show up even when you don't have the inspiration, then that's when you should be looking towards the business side.
Cool. Creation is the engine of do.
Yep. Rapid fire, 4 questions, 1 person each. Let's go.
Thank you so much. On the topic of productivity, what are the daily habits that you guys have cultivated to stay sane and productive?
It is all about your body, because the only thing you can do your work with is your body and your mind, and your mind is part of your body. If you don't make time to take care of the vessel that you're in, it's not going to go hard. So the only things that I do daily are things like taking my vitamins, doing my yoga, doing my stretches. I make sure that we have shrimp checks, which is everybody check your shrimp. Everybody check your shrimp. Okay? So you set in those things, and or like at my old job, we used to do plank o'clock, right? Well, I know, take care of your body. And that is the thing that you will be able to do your craft with.
Yeah. Awesome. Thank you.
You kind of touched a bit on this, but like, working with the team, how do you both take in like feedback without like just like running around in circles? Like, you did say like I'm the last call, but that just pisses people off because everyone has their own idea for what it's going to be, and sometimes they're just like, I don't want to do this, or they're mad and grumbly about doing this, and that just makes everything sad and angry. But I also want people's feedback, but I also want it to be my vision. So how do you balance all that?
Collaboration is a skill. It's not a personality trait.
Yep.
So being a good collaborator is something you can work on. And there are days when being a good collaborator is harder because you're tired or you're hungry or you're really emotionally invested in something. But showing up as a collaborator is a practice. And we have things on our team that we implement, like I get migraines. I will go to Spencer, the other designer that I work with the most, and be like, hey, I have a migraine. If my tone sounds crappy, please know I have a migraine. I'm going to work really hard on it. Give me 5% leeway today. And he's like, great, amazing. I'm not going to pay attention to that. And because I've warned him, we are off on a better foot. But also we are all beholden to the project. Yep. We are not beholden to our own egos. And sometimes in the crucible, only the best things survive.
Yeah, you have to leave your ego at the door, like every single person, right? Good ideas can come from anywhere, and no matter who has the idea, you have to be ready to kill it. Yep. And you just have to recognize it's for the best of the product. And if you are the person who has the call, so if you're that person who's like, oh, look, ultimately it's my responsibility to say go, no, go, yes, no, whatever it is, it is your responsibility also to ensure that the team in the collaborative setting knows they were heard.
Yes.
Yep. Right. We heard what you said. It's a great idea. And if you can articulate it, here's why we're not doing that. Right. I am a big proponent of don't put things in the closet, put it on the shelf. We're gonna do it later. Right. I didn't put it away. This is a great idea. Oh my God. When we do DLC, when we do an expansion, like I want to pull that, but right now we can't do it.
Catch me quoting.
And also, contracts say friendships.
Last one.
Go.
Two real quick.
Okay.
Hi, I'm an indie game developer. I'm on my third project, and now I want to reach a stage where I want to scale a project. And so I talked to a couple publishers that were interested in my idea, and so I want to make like a really impressive demo, but I've hit the part where money is becoming an issue, and it's like, okay, like how do I bridge the gap? Like Small Business Administration wasn't exactly helpful, and so do you guys have any like sort of like where the funding or investments might live?
Noah, take it away.
Yeah, so funding investments can lie wherever they are, but your funding investments are going to come from relationships. So that means finding a way to get to GDC, DICE, something like that, or going to conventions. Because at the end of the day, money doesn't just grow on a tree. It comes from a person or a place or a thing. And so when you build those relationships, even if it's like not necessarily money, but it's time and labor, that's value. And what you really need is value, not money. That way you can show people what you have going down the road. That gets you runway.
Yeah, there's so just really quickly,
Bill.
3 years we've spent trying to get Lunacy funding. Just finally got enough funding to do a vertical slice, like in the last few months, right? And I talked literally with hundreds of people. I've been making video games for 31 years and I couldn't get a dime. Yeah. So first, one, if you're having trouble getting money, it is not you. It is our industry right now. It's a terrible time to try to get money. Second, when we did get money, the accelerator we ended up working with was because it was a person who came in to manage the fund was someone that I had met 10 years ago and done a thing with. Yeah. And when I said, hey, congratulations, you got this new job, he's like, oh my God, I haven't seen you since that thing we did at Tencent. What are you doing right now? I'm doing this. We should talk.
Yep.
That's what led to it happening. So it is relationships.
Last question.
Hi, thank you. It came up a couple of times, and I'm curious, do you have advice? How do you get a mentor?
You come to this convention and find one. No, you build a relationship with someone that you want to, not necessarily emulate or be like, but you build a relationship. Just like when I answered, there you go. Anyways, you build that relationship with someone, and mentorship is not something that you can force someone to do. It has to be offered, and then in turn has to be accepted. So you need to find someone that you think could mentor you, build a relationship, make sure they think it's a good fit, and then that's how you do it.
Be someone who's inquisitive. Be someone who's inquisitive.
Yeah.
I would be looking what you can offer other people rather than what they can offer you.
Yeah, exactly.
That is the foundation of building relationships, is thinking at all times, how can I provide value to the person I'm talking to or the person I'm developing a relationship with?
And finally, where can everybody be found, Bill?
You can find me on the socials and everywhere else, Blue Sky, especially spending a lot of time in there at Bill freaking Roper.
Nice.
And I'm doing a lot of streaming and other stuff, but it's always at Bill freaking Roper someplace.
Robert.
You can find me at Captain Robert at everything. I'm live streaming right now. Come give me some ad rev. I would love for you to be there.
I'm everywhere on the internet at The Rowan Hall.
And I'm everywhere on the internet at Elise Resendez.
And I'm everywhere on the internet at MyLawyerFriend. But also, please download Forgotten Pat's podcast. It's my D&D podcast, and it's a blast. All right, thank you guys so much. Yay! Great job, guys.